Okay, so imagine this, a city that knows you're about to hit a traffic jam and automatically reroutes you. Or a city where your trash can literally texts the sanitation department when it's full. Now, this isn't some far-off science fiction movie. This is the reality of the smart city. And today we're going to dive into how technology and data are completely reshaping our urban future. But let's start with a feeling I'm sure we all know a little too well. You know, that bumper-to-bumper gridlock, the overflowing bins on the sidewalk, that general feeling that our cities are just bursting at the seams. So why is this happening? It's a really simple question, but it leads to a huge, complex, and pretty urgent challenge. And here it is. This is the number that keeps city planners up at night. By 2050, 70%, that's 7 out of every 10 people on Earth, will be living in a city. That is a massive wave of humanity headed for our urban centers. And let's be honest, our current infrastructure just is not ready for that.
So the big question is, how on earth do we manage this kind of growth? Well, that brings us to the blueprint for the city of the future. What exactly do we mean when we say a smart city?
You know, at its core, it's pretty straightforward. A smart city is one that uses technology and data not just for the sake of having cool new gadgets, but as a tool to make life better, to make our cities more livable, more efficient, and way more sustainable. It's all about rethinking how a city serves its most important asset, us, the people. And it is so much more than just the tech. A truly smart city stands on 3 essential pillars. You've got the people, that's us, the ones whose needs should be driving everything. You've got the technology, that's the nuts and bolts that make it all work. And you've got governance, the rules and leadership that make sure the tech is used responsibly. If you're missing any one of these, the whole thing falls apart. And look, the scope here is absolutely massive. We are not just talking about fixing the traffic problem or making the power grid a little more efficient. Smart city thinking touches literally every single part of what makes a city tick. So here are the 6 big ones. You've got smart mobility, think getting the fastest route home using a mix of buses, bikes, and trains, all from one app. Or smart environment, where sensors can tell you which park has the best air quality for a run right now. From energy and the economy to just how we live our daily lives, these are the playgrounds where innovators are building the future. So, what's actually powering all of this? What's under the hood? Let's take a look inside the engine room at the core technologies that make all these incredible solutions possible. All right, first up is the Internet of Things, or IoT. The best way to think about this is like the city's nervous system. It's thousands upon thousands of tiny sensors embedded everywhere, constantly feeling and reporting back on what's happening. They're measuring traffic flow, air pollution, water pressure, you name it, there's a sensor for it. Now, all that data from those sensors has to go somewhere, right? That is where cloud computing comes in. Think of it as the city's giant shared brain. It's the powerful, flexible infrastructure you need to store, process, and share these unbelievable amounts of information, finally breaking down those walls between different city departments. But just having data isn't enough. It's just a bunch of numbers. You need intelligence to make sense of it all. That's data analytics. These are the tools, the dashboards, the predictive models that turn billions of raw data points into actual usable insights. This allows city leaders to make decisions based on real evidence, not just gut feelings. And finally, how do we fit into this picture? How do regular citizens plug into this smart system? Well, it's through mobile apps. Our smartphones become the remote control for the city. We can report a pothole, check a bus schedule, pay a bill. It creates a vital two-way conversation between residents and the people running the city. Okay, so that's all this theory, but what does this stuff actually look like out in the real world? Let's shift gears and check out 2 very different cities that have taken 2 very different approaches to becoming smart. First up, let's go to Jakarta. Now, this is a massive megacity with some real resource constraints. So they focused on a citizen-first model. They use apps like QLUE that let people on the ground report problems like potholes or flooding directly. They've also built real-time flood monitoring and early warning systems. It's smart, it's accessible, and it's incredibly effective because it empowers the community. And then, on the complete other end of the spectrum, you have Singapore. They're often seen as the gold standard. Their approach is incredibly ambitious and government-led. We're talking a world-class intelligent transport system, a massive sensor network covering the entire island, and SingPass, one single digital ID to access over 1,700 different government services. It is all about deep integration and long-term top-down planning.
So you have to ask, which way is the right way? Jakarta's bottom-up, citizen-led approach, or Singapore's top-down, infrastructure-heavy one? And the answer is, it depends. What works for Jakarta wouldn't necessarily work for Singapore, and vice versa. It really proves there is no single, one-size-fits-all blueprint for building a smart city. And that brings us to a really important point. Let's take all these big global ideas and bring them right down to earth. Let's see how these challenges feel in a specific, local context on a day-to-day basis. So let's look at the very real pressures in Mataram and Lombok. They're dealing with crippling traffic from growth in tourism. The waste that tourism brings is totally overwhelming their systems. The water supply can be really inconsistent, especially when it's dry, and there just aren't a lot of good public transport options. See, these aren't abstract issues on a PowerPoint slide. They are the daily frustrations for the people who actually live there. So, if you're faced with challenges like these, how do you even begin to tackle them? How do you start to think like an innovator and actually find a problem that's worth solving? Well, a good problem, a solvable one, usually has 4 key qualities. First, it's real and it exists right now. Second, it's specific. You can't just say traffic is bad. You have to narrow it down to, why does this specific street get totally gridlocked every day at 5 p.m.? Third, solving it would have a high impact. And fourth, it's something technology can actually help fix. I absolutely love this quote because it gets to the real heart of innovation. The best ideas don't come from sitting in a lab or reading a textbook. They come from getting out there, from walking around your own city, talking to people, and just paying attention to the little things that are broken. That's where the opportunities are. And really, that brings us to our final thought for today. With this framework in mind, I want you to take a look around your own neighborhood, your own town or city. What's broken? What drives you crazy every day? What could be better? What's the very first problem that you would solve? Because the future of our cities isn't just in the hands of planners and big tech companies, it's in our hands too.